To say that the sheer amount of internet hype surrounding this show initially added on to my growing disinterest and cautious take would honestly be an understatement. And also, since this is a new show, I anticipate possibly some new viewers. If that's the case, hello, I am Zio Agito, a reviewer that does series reviews, but as the series progresses, you'll see that my own lore starts coming into play of things. And if you don't believe me, feel free to ask in the comments about Space Vies, Turbo Ryuki. Look, the list goes on, but look. From after this episode on, it's gonna be a ride. So, let's get back on track real fast. This show does have a lot of red flags to make someone a little cautious, such as a new production staff, as well as tech never before seen in this series. But before I get too ahead of myself yet again, let's take a look at how this episode went. So here's the quick recap. Fresh out the lore book with a mural looking like Breath of the Wild's backstory, 2,000 years prior, the Bugnarok were defeated by 5 knights, of whom would become kings and establish their own 5 kingdoms. This is reminding me of Operation Overdrive's opening. Okay. But prophecy states that after those 2,000 years, the Bugnarok would return. Shogunam, looking like it's copied the homework off of Attack on Titan, is our central locale this week, where not only was Geats having a festival this week, but KingOhger is out here celebrating the start of the spring shopping season as well. But no, seriously, it's a celebration of the meeting of all 5 kings in one locations. Clearly, that's gotta be a red flag too, right? Something's gotta happen. Queen Himeno of Ashibana, Lord Kaguragi of Tofu, Majesty Rita of Gokan, and Chief Yanma of Enkasopa, all to meet with King of Shogadam, Rakulis. As, with the looming return of the Bugnarok, the royals should unite their efforts and revive the KingOhger. But Yanma ain't about to let this man have sole control over KingOhger and be their lead. After all, the current system the god Kawagata runs on is based off his nation's tech. So, it's all him. It's the battle of the egos. An ego off, if you will. Because, since the Kawagata is dormant in his country, Rakulis should be the lead. Yeah. Yanma doesn't want that man in control of everything and taking advantage of the oncoming events. So, let's take things orphan style with Gita, some guy that plays villain every time the kids want to play hero. But all that doesn't matter when the Titans attack. I figured this joke's been overdone, but come on now. It's free real estate. They knew what they were doing. We get our first transformation with Rita, Himeko, and Kaguragi, all getting encased in amber and emerging as common fighters. I mean KingOhgers. In the attack, Gita and his friends are caught in the madness, with one girl, Kogane, taking on some serious damage. She dead though? Nah, Himeko says it'll be alright, so she'll be alright. But, while they're fighting, the fuck Rakulis doing? Laid back. Wait. This is a palace. How'd Gita, first of all, get up there so fast? And second of all, in to begin with? Well, no matter, because Gita's got question and Rakulis actually gives them answers? What is this hierarchy? He's chilling and blaming Yanma for not giving him absolute power. So after everything is over, he's invading his ass. It's here you find out that Rakulis is just a power-chasing dick, using this moment to unite all the countries under his banner to give rise to true peace. Sounds like tyranny to me, but Gita doesn't like the sound of any of that and snatches up Rakulis' swag-ass pullover and his blade. But such an act just makes him a villain and an enemy of the nation. And although torn by the reality of this moment, he tearfully accepts that role if it means for the right thing to be done. Awakening the god Kawagata that Yanma failed to activate, Gita takes his new fit and giant pet robot bug to boot. Ready to kick things off in a massive fight, we get the full combination of the King-Ohger in a pretty spectacular fight. But in the aftermath, declaring world domination, Ghidorah is now public enemy number 1. Rating time! This was indeed a first episode, and a massive one at that. I will admit that the over-reliance on CG is currently this episode's greatest weak point, as the sets themselves need a little bit more time cooking in the rendering department, as flat textures, lack of proper shadows, and a lot of the environment just don't float well with the actors on screen. And I mentioned this in the initial King-Ohger presser video, that the tech that they were using was very similar to what the Mandalorian uses in their set pieces in an absence of a green screen. But because of that, each environment exists in a free angle perspective, which is great, but the Toei CG budget is indeed faltering on that front. Mix that with a few shaky camera spots where things just don't line up well, and it's a little messy in some spots. The saving grace for this episode was the actors, especially Yanma, Rakulis, and Ghidorah. The latter's emotional acceptance of the situation was the moment that instantly elevated this episode, and thus why this episode is getting the score of an Alba Ranger A! This world has a lot of lore to it, but right now, the weakest thing about it from a story perspective is the villains. The Bugnarok seems like a typical force of nature that just shows up with no real warning and just fucks shit up, gets defeated, and then comes back later. It's legit Calamity Ganon from Breath of the Wild, which was also the weakest aspect of that game. So I'm hoping that the villains aren't just two-dimensional and just exist for the cast to have something to fight every week. What I do enjoy about the setups with this episode and hope for is that this series breaks the conventions of being an episodic monster of the week format series. We have the makings of something that could run in a much more serialized with its storytelling and make each episode purposeful in its viewings. Since Reiwa Sentai have been trying hard to break its franchise conventions in different ways, if they end up going that route, it would be amazing to see if they can properly pull it off. There are some hints to the future events, however, with them implying that the Calibers only react to royalty. So, either Ghidorah shares ancestry with the original hero, which is completely possible even by today's royal standards, given that the fact that even non-full successors to the throne do end up kind of sprinkling their bloodline into going into just commoners down the line. Or it could also just be the case of the Caliber itself chooses who they find worthy, kind of like a sword in the stone type situation. Though, given Ghidorah's actions, he'll likely end up traveling to each country, trying to win over the other royals to join his crusade. Since Yanma was already not feeling Rakulis, he's probably the most willing, but of course, there's gotta be some stipulations. So I'm interested to see how the dynamic of these characters really start playing the game of their own ideologies versus the matter at hand. And how Rakulis goes about things. Rakulis himself now no longer has his caliber, but being king, he might still be able to find a way to transform. And we know that there is a silver variant that's the O-Kawagata Ohger. Could they be the transform antagonistic form that he takes on to confront Ghidorah and the others should they turn against him? There really are a lot of high marks in terms of expectations, and this episode really sets the stage for what can potentially be an amazing series overall. So, what did you all think about the first episode of King-Ohger? Rakulis being a dick, Himeko, Ghidorah getting that Daytime Emmy Award nomination on lock, and everything in between. Full disclaimer, I will not be reviewing next week's episode or the week after's episode, since for Sentai, I give it about 5 episodes and then review them up to that point, since the first 5 episodes are typically dedicated to introducing us to each individual on the squad. But in the interim, I'll be catching up on some overdue projects I've had in the back burner. So I'll catch you all next time for Geats and whatever else I've got cooking. Otherwise, I'll see you in a month with my next KingOhger video. Until then, bye.